Every time you read a newspaper, cartooning is never missing. Hello, I am Kyla Shayne DAGUPIOSO. Join me along with my groupmates, Miss Samantha Nicole Diaz and Miss Rey Ann as we discuss the elements, principles, and the procedures in doing another field in campus journalism, which is the editorial cartooning. At the end of this lesson, everyone is expected to gain knowledge and understanding about the basics of editorial cartooning and learn the ways on how to create an effective editorial cartoon. Before defining editorial cartoon, let us know first what is a cartoon. So the word cartoon is derived from the two words caricature and lampoon. From the examples below, Einstein's hair and mustache and former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's mole, which are this person's prominent features, were exaggerated. So this is what caricature is all about. These are drawings of people in which certain physical features are exaggerated. It is done through sketching a representation of a person or object in which the peculiarity or defects are overstated to produce oftentimes humorous or humiliating effects. Lampoon is a malicious writing, a satire that ridicules a person or idea. A lampoon can be in the form of text, but when done in editorial cartooning, a lampoon is sketched. So, a cartoon making fun of a politician is an example of lampoon. Thus, the words editorial cartoon. As you can see, editorial cartoons are typically found in the editorial or opinion section of periodicals. This time, let us understand what an editorial cartoon is. So, it is an illustration expressing opinion and interpretation. When you look at an editorial cartoon, it conveys a message or commentary of the creator or a cartoonist on something. This opinion relates to timely issues and usually reflects the publication's viewpoint. It is also called a wordless editorial. Editorial cartoon is like the illustrated version of editorial writing, but what makes it different is that it only uses symbolism and labels to represent an idea. Furthermore, it serves as entertainment and lighten the mood in the midst of the serious presentation of opinions about different issues. As I discussed earlier, cartoons are drawing employing distortion for emphasis. So, an editorial cartoon has the power to evoke laughter or to express what is amusing, comical, or absurd.
Hello everyone, I am Rey Ann, and at this point, I am going to discuss four things, which are the qualities of an effective editorial cartoon, the characteristics of an effective cartooning, the steps in editorial cartooning, and the tips for editorial cartooning. So, to begin, there are five key qualities that make an editorial cartoon effective. So, these are the following. So, number one, it deals with a single idea. As we all know, an editorial cartoon is a sketch or an illustration that shows us a timely issue. So, it is important that the audience can easily grasp the central message that an editorial cartoon is trying to convey because dealing and integrating several ideas in an editorial cartoon would only confuse the audience as there are too much information to process. So, number two, it is humorous. Editorial cartoon provides a touch of entertainment to the audience, but at the same time, it must be paired with important information for them to digest. So it is humorous in a sense that how the cartoon is drawn is not the typical way of how figures of, for example, people are drawn. In editorial cartoon, the faces and expression of the subjects are exaggeratedly drawn in a way that they appear funny to the audience. And number three, it exerts influence on the reader. So editorial cartoon aims to influence the reader um, about a particular side of a certain issue. So basically, it aims to persuade, to educate, and to convince. So, in order to do this, the editorial cartoon has to have not only a creative way of how it is drawn, but it it has to be also backed up with facts and observations which are of use in the actual issue that is being presented. So number four, it is um, realistic. It has to be realistic, meaning the editorial cartoon has to reflect real issues, real problems that are happening in the country. So meaning it has to be observed when you are going to make an editorial cartoon, you have to base it on real events or real issues that are happening in the country. So hindi siya pwede na gawa-gawa mo lang yung issue na ipepresent mo. So it has to be observed in um, everywhere. And lastly, number five, it is entertaining, meaning, yeah, it entertains the readers. Okay, so next, we have the characteristics of an effective editorial cartooning. So we have here eight characteristics. So first, we have it reflects the principle of the whole editorial board and is based on current events or issues for immediacy or timeliness. Second, it expresses the editorial cartoonist's opinion in one drawing. Number three, it has an educational purpose. And number four, it uses visual and verbal expressions which are similar to the readers. Number five, it contains accurate information. Number six, again, it entertains. Basically, because humor is one of editorial cartoons' elements. Number seven, it covers political issues. And lastly, it serves as a mind reliever amidst the seriousness of the topics in the editorial page. Next, we have steps in editorial cartooning. So we have here three steps. So first, you must know the main issue that you wish to draw a cartoon. So, syempre kailangan mag-identify ka muna ng issue na gusto mong gawan ng editorial cartoon. Mas mabuti yung napapanahon na issue. And second, know the stand of the editorial staff on the issue. And lastly, illustrate through the aid of effective symbols that fit the general opinion of the editorial staff on the issue. So meaning kung ano man yung opinion ng buong editorial staff, gagamitan mo sa drawing mo ng mga symbols na magre-represent sa mga opinion na meron sila. And last, the tips for editorial cartooning. So first, use black ink pen on white paper. Second, employ single stroke or line. So the reason as to why we have to employ single stroke or line is for it to be neat tingnan. Next is shading can be employed for emphasis. And next, focus on one topic only. As what I have mentioned earlier, integrating a lot of ideas all at once would only confuse your reader. So it is important that you stick to one topic and you expound it using your drawing. Next, limit the use of words and labels. Next, avoid using text balloons that describe or state what are obvious. So, pwede ka namang pwede tayong gumamit ng text balloons, but um, only in showing or in expressing important thoughts, pero hindi siya pwedeng ano, yung yung paggamit mo ng text balloons is to state the obvious kung ano man yung dinodrawing mo. So dapat minimize the usage of text balloons. Next, use universal or common symbols. Of course, it is very important to use or common symbols so that mas madaling maintindihan ng readers. Um, if you are going to use the symbol of chain, so kapag nakita ng readers mo yon, maiisip agad nila na, oh, it's about slavery. Ganun. Or if naglagay ka ng symbol ng dove, your readers would immediately think na, it's about freedom or something like that. Next is details in drawing are not necessary. Number 9, simplicity of the drawing is encouraged. Simple but the message is clear and intact. So hindi na necessary na maglagay ka ng maraming designs or what. The important thing is that sa simple na drawing mo na yon, kapag nakita ng readers mo, makukuha na agad nila yung central message na gusto mong iparating sa kanila. And number 10, manifestation of facial expressions and prominent identity, especially when drawing persons. Number 11, present the issue accurately. 12, limit the things to be drawn from 3 to 5 only to illustrate the idea. And 13, present accurately the issue. Example, survey, data, statistics, and others. So of course, when we are going to make an editorial cartoon, dapat i-base natin siya sa datos. Kailangan i-base natin siya sa katotohanan. Hindi pwedeng gumawa tayo ng editorial cartoon na base lang sa imagination natin. Kasi we are trying to influence our readers. So, in influencing them, we don't use, alam mo yun, hindi tayo gumagamit ng mga maling impormasyon. Kailangan ang ginagamit natin kung ano yung totoo. Based on facts dapat at all times. And next, emphasize face, dynamism, or motion in your subject. 16. Next, inject humor, but be careful not to poke fun of tragic incidents. Okay, so meaning nito, as what I have said kanina, an editorial cartoon is humorous, but of course, it also has to be sensitive about sa mga events na masyadong sensitibo. Number 16, develop your own style. So in developing your own style, of course, it takes time, but it can be improved naman through practice. 17, which is the last one, read a lot and be updated with the different issues in economic, political, socio-cultural, environmental, moral, and spiritual aspects.
This time, let's discuss the importance of choosing cartoons. Editorial cartoons can be a powerful form of expression. They can grab attention of readers in a single glance. Unfortunately, some drawings are vague, that they are hard to understand. So it is important to note that when selecting cartoons, make sure that the readers get the intended message in an effective way. You need to ensure that Just by looking at the cartoon, your readers can identify your stand or point of view. In addition, cartoons should be timely and well drawn. A way to make your readers understand the message you want to deliver is by using symbols. Editorial cartoons, to be effective and more appealing to the minds and hearts of the readers, one must use symbols. Symbols in a cartoon is any image that stands for some other thing, event, person, abstract idea, or trend in the news. Some of the symbols are universally recognized and accepted, while some are innate to certain localities and cultures. Here we have some examples. You can draw a dove to represent peace, freedom, and democracy. Next, if you notice a man wearing a salakot, that means it is Juan de la Cruz representing the ordinary Filipino. You can also use crocodile to denote an abusive or corrupt person. Big waves for hindrances and adversities, and chain for slavery or repression. Use pen and newspaper to represent freedom and right to expression. A weighing scale for law and justice. Sunrise for hope and new beginning. Bar of gold to represent wealth. High-rising building for development and progress. And of course, key, a means to succeed or accomplish goal. So we have here some examples of editorial cartoons. Maybe you have noticed na there are words written along with the illustration. This is because, in some cases, cartoonists find difficulties in looking for symbols that best represent an issue, so they use labels. So labels are words used in the cartoons to represent an idea or concept. Editorial cartoonists also use balloons, as shown from the cartoon on the left side. So it is used to indicate the thoughts or verbal expressions of the characters. Next, let's discuss the techniques in drawing cartoon. First, use basic ingredients for an effective editorial cartoon, such as simplicity, expression, and exaggeration. Simplicity. Use simple symbols and simple drawings, but make sure that they can still provoke the expression of the mass. And it is exaggerated to avoid being boring. Note that your cartoon must bring laughter or madness to the readers. Second, in drawing personalities, exaggerate the prominent features of the subject. For example, the late President Noynoy Aquino. He is known for wearing eyeglasses or for being bald. Such features should be exaggerated to indicate that it is him or it is the person that you are drawing. Next, take advantage of your medium, your pen, brush, ink, charcoal, or dark pencil. Use this to contrast the black and white and to properly place your shadows. Note that dark areas tend to catch the focus of the eyes. The fifth thing you need to remember is to use less words and more symbols. As I mentioned earlier, use only words if you are having difficulty in looking for symbols that best represent something, and use more symbols that are universally accepted and recognized. Next, don't overwork your drawing, and don't make the ideas crowded. So I remember our school paper advisor would tell our cartoonists before that if possible, use only 3 to 4 elements in your drawing, because a congested drawing will only bring confusions to the readers. Keep your message clear and understandable. Make it in a way that, in a single glance, your reader will understand the idea you want to convey and decide you're taking. Lastly, be funny except in tragic situations. Editorial cartoon provides entertainment, but timing is everything. As an editorial cartoonist, make sure not to make fun of terrible events. That's it for my part, and now let's hear from the next reporter.
Hey everyone, I am Samantha Nicole Diaz, and I will be discussing the essentials of good editorial cartoon, steps on how to draw an effective editorial cartoon for beginners, editorial cartoons of different kinds of stands and concepts, the criteria for evaluating editorial cartoons, and the models, samples of editorial cartoons. So first, let's have the essentials of a good editorial cartoon. So first on the list, a good editorial cartoon is always simple, limited, and uncluttered. It never tries to tell the whole story. So I think it helps the people to form their own interpretation or opinion on the subject. It will make people think about what the artist is trying to portray in his or her drawing. So next, we have the cartoon should focus on a single item that is clearly identified. They may also represent a simplification of a complex issue. So focusing on a single item can indicate the main issue or situation being portrayed in the cartoon. Next is use the tools the experts use, such as symbols, caricatures, stereotypes, and analogies. So using these tools such as symbols is essential, as these tools are something that represents or stands for something else, usually an idea. So fourth, we have thinking skills are much more important than drawing skills in creating a good cartoon. So a person can present a fantastic drawing, but if the opinion is not represented, the objective of the cartoon is not met. So editorial cartoons are commonly found in newspapers, so it reflects topics and messages that are being circulated for people to evaluate and comprehend. So in this sector, it is essential to draw with purpose, and that purpose is to deliver a decent message that will raise awareness, while also allowing everyone to relate to and form their own opinion on the subject just by evaluating the cartoon. So fifth, we have the any words used, such as captions, dialogue, balloons, or words that are parts of the drawing itself, should be large, clear, and easily recognized. Sixth, so if your cartoon is clever and gets across your opinion, you've done a good job. Next on, we will be discussing the steps on how to draw an effective editorial cartoon for beginners. So first, you need to make a sketch. So if you want to draw a human hand, start with a simple sketch. Through the use of a pencil, draw a circle, place a vertical line and another horizontal line in the middle of the circle. Calculate where to place the parts of the head, eyes, eyebrows, nose, and mouth. So after placing these parts, so we can now draw completely the face by placing the needed parts like hair and ears. So in here we can also draw the facial expression. After drawing the head, draw a sketch to estimate the size of the body, hands, and feet of the person. So after sketching or building your subject, we can make finishing touches of our editorial cartoon, like erasing the sketches made through the use of a good eraser, applying shade, and other things that must be improved in the drawing. In here, we can also emphasize the dynamism or movement of the character. So next, we will be discussing the editorial cartoons of different kinds of stands and concepts. So an issue, problem, or event can be drawn through an editorial cartoon of different stands, be it of information, interpretation, argumentation, criticism, persuasion, commentation, or celebration. It can also be shown in different concepts using different symbols and allusions. So hence, it is a must that an editorial cartoonist is not only good at drawing, but also at conceptualizing what symbols and allusions should be drawn to convey his message and the issue effectively. So we actually have two editorial cartoons of different kinds of stands and concepts to be discussed. So first, we have editorials of argumentation in different concepts. So when we say editorial of argumentation, this is oftentimes called editorial of persuasion. So editor argues in order to convince or persuade the reader to accept his stand on the issue. So as what we have seen in this first picture, so we have here the topic about reproductive health bill. This is an affirmative kind of concept. So when we say affirmative, we are expressing agreement with a statement or an issue. So as what we have seen in the picture, na even though nahihirapan na ang nanay na magluwal ng another baby, they still welcome it. So because in religious aspect, despite the status of a family, kahit hirap na sa pagpapakain ng maraming anak dahil sa kahirapan, maybe should be welcome as they believe that every baby is a blessing from God. Next, we have here the same concept, the same idea, which can be also seen in the second concept, but iba lang yung way ng pagkakadraw nito. And here, we have the opposition. So when we say opposition, it is against sa issue. So with the same topic, the reproductive health bill, there is an opposition na hindi na pwedeng mag-produce ng bata, lalong-lalo na kung malaki na ang epekto nito sa kalusugan or reproductive health ng mga nanay. So the Congress are telling this family, especially families who doesn't have the means to feed and support their children because of the life they're experiencing, to have a family planning. So family planning, and more specifically contraception, can protect every household and woman from the physical, emotional, and financial burden of unplanned pregnancy. So when a pregnancy is unplanned, ill-timed, or too closely spaced, it affects the mother's health, which in turn affects the health and safety of her unborn child. Next picture, it also have the same concept is being discussed in this photo, but different way ang pagkakadrawing nito. So now, let's move on to editorial of criticism. So it points, when we say editorial of criticism, it points out the good or the bad features of a problem or situation mentioned in the news. So its purpose is to influence the reader. It suggests a solution at the end. So with the same, in this picture, we are now combining the affirmative and opposition concept. So next, we have the criteria for evaluating editorial cartoons. So first, we have to identify the issue. So what is the issue in an editorial cartoon all about? So here we have to evaluate if the issue chosen is easily identified. We also have to check if the cartoon strongly addresses the issue. So next, we have the message. So you have to identify if is the message depicting a clear message. So does it have an educational purpose? Are these cartoons intended to make readers think about current issues? So editorial cartoons must use a visual and verbal vocabulary that is familiar to readers. Next, we have the impact. So does the cartoon catch the attentions of the readers? So cartoonists have a big influence on the way different groups of people look at each other. So in evaluating such a piece, we have to see if the cartoon can encourage or make people feel the message of the artist. So artist wanted to portray. So, and if it did, then you created an impactful kind of work. Next, we also have to evaluate the symbolism. So does the cartoon use appropriate symbols? Does it correlate with the intended piece the cartoonist wanted to portray? We also have to check if the cartoon used humor to catch the attention of the readers. We also have to check if the cartoon depicts the emotions of the characters or the subjects of the cartoon. And after this, we also have to see if the cartoon is emphasizing actions or movements. So let's now move on to models or samples of editorial cartoons. So first we have here the cartoon which talks about the campaign period that happened months ago, where voters, especially new voters, are torn about who and what to believe and who should they vote. So the next picture also talks about the presidential election, which actually it's not from months ago but years ago, I think. So it also talks about election or the campaign period. So next we also have here a topic about campus journalism as a catalyst for change achieving MDGs. So when we say MDGs, it is the Millennium Development Goals. So I think that's it for our report. Thank you all for listening, and we all hope that you learned something.